You would imagine that the securities depository business is perhaps one of the most boring back-end infrastructure that all exchanges need to have. But in Europe, the manner in which the securities depository business evolved created a competitive environment of which Clearstream, the CEO, Geoffrey Tessler, with whom I'm speaking today, is one of the most important players. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us today. And maybe the first question I should really ask you is that how would you describe Clearstream as an organization?
It's an esoteric organization because there are only two of them that exist in the world. We're in the world of the International Central Securities Depositories, or ICSDs, and that we were really created out of a need to produce a depository environment for Eurobonds back in the 70s, when Eurobonds did not have a natural depository or dematerialization organization. The first one to think of doing this was actually J.P. Morgan. They created Euroclear. About a year later, other banks like Citibank and Chase decided that they did not like this idea of this ability to immobilize and potentially dematerialize Eurobonds to be centered in one organization. So they set up a competing organization that was called CEDEL. And CEDEL was eventually, it did exactly the same thing, an ICSD, and it was eventually owned by 90 banks. In 2000, as a result of a lot of change within the securities industry, CEDEL was sold to Deutsche Börse, so the 90 banks sold their position to Deutsche Börse, and CEDEL then renamed itself Clearstream. But over that 40-year period, this competitive duopoly has existed, which really just began over the settlement of Eurobonds, but has expanded greatly. And it's expanded because every bank had to choose, if they were holding Eurobonds, a depository. So they either chose Clearstream or they chose Euroclear. Initially, they just did settlement activity. And then because of the needs of the clients, the breadth of activities that we delivered expanded into custody. And then the value-added custody services were developed. And then services such as securities lending, collateral management were developed. And the ICSDs, in many ways, and they became banks somewhere along the way, but in their functionality, they started to look a lot like global custodians.
When we say ICSD today, for Clearstream, you've become something completely different. It's not a Eurobond business anymore.
It's not strictly, still the majority of our business, probably about 80% of our business is bonds. And I would say of the 80%, probably another 80% is Eurobonds, and probably 20% are domestic bonds. So a client has a choice. They can hold the domestic bonds in the domestic market, or they can hold the domestic bonds in the international market. If you're trading in the international markets and you have numerous counterparts and everyone has an account at either Euroclear or Clearstream, it's a lot easier sometimes just to keep all of your assets in the international market. Now, in the domestic markets, which is related to the stock exchange, the CCP, and then the local depository, and OTC transactions also in the domestic market, each one of those markets is dictated by local law, by local regulation, by local custom.
But you have a lion's share of the Deutsche Börse.
We are the CSD for Germany.
How did it come to a point where you ended up, or Clearstream ended up being accused of the very thing that you were describing Euroclear for, monopolistic practices? The action of the EU courts on Clearstream today. I mean, it's like on pricing and so on.
Well, actually, it's not an action of the court today. It was an appeal of a decision that was made in 2004 for actions that took place in 2001. So let me explain. First of all, I don't believe I've said that Euroclear is monopolistic. I said that the offset to creating a situation where they would have become monopolistic was the creation of CEDEL. One of the problems in our business is that it's filled with esoteria, in that we understand how our business operates, and it's very difficult to explain it to a layman who's not in the business or to a court in that case. There was an accusation back in 2001 that we did not grant access in the German market on a timely basis to Euroclear. We don't believe that's the case. We fought the case. We lost the case in 2004. The penalty for losing the case was nothing. There was no fine. There was nothing, and it was basically forgotten by the marketplace. The mistake we probably made was to appeal the case and not just let it go. We appealed it because we felt that we were completely in the right. There had been no actions on our part that should have been viewed as monopolistic. So the noise of the past few days has really been the appeal process, where the appeal withstood the finding of the first court of the not the court but of the commission, and it is what it is.
Being out of Germany, you actually have a lion's share of the marketplace in the first place.
Well, in Germany we do have the lion's share. The question is access into Germany from those who are outside, and we grant and Euroclear actually continues to be the largest client of Clearstream Bank in Frankfurt, and I think a relatively happy client of Clearstream Bank Frankfurt. So it was sort of a situation that was blown out of proportion. But I will take some responsibility. We should have just left it in 2004 and just moved on.